Hi, Dr. Roitman. Welcome to another Yummzy episode. We're so excited to have you today. We love your background. We love everything you do. We've heard so much about you and your work. Welcome, and please welcome our guests and let them know a bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for reaching out. I'm so glad to be connected with you. I've done quite a bit of research on a lot of different restaurants around the U.S. where I'm from, Minnesota, and we don't have a place quite like yours. So I'm a little bit jealous, but I love the work you do, and I'm glad that you like the research I put there on my Instagram page as well. So a little background for everyone is I am a physician right now practicing in Edina, Minnesota and St. Paul, Minnesota. And so I do non-surgical orthopedic functional medicine, which a lot of people are probably familiar with, especially your fans.
Mhm.
So we get to talk a lot about nutrition, how that affects your health, how it affects disease, how you can manage disease, lots of different areas that we can attack today. So I'm excited to cover all the questions your fans got for you today.
Welcome back, Dr. Roitman. I was just giving everyone a summary of what they might have missed out on.
All right. Hopefully this works a little bit better. Sorry, I think that's
The
probably the
sound is
Wi-Fi on
great,
my
but
end.
we cannot see you.
Okay. All right. Totally fine. So I see the next question is, what do I think of the vegan lifestyle?
Yes.
Okay. So the vegan lifestyle, here's the thing. Overall, I think it's pretty healthy for most people if you do it correctly. I think proper vegan lifestyle would be if you're plant-based. So meaning most of your nutrients and calories are coming from vegetables and fruits, which is
Mhm.
considered vegan. However, what else do we know? Coca-Cola is vegan. Oreos are
That's
vegan.
true.
That is not necessarily healthy. You could be eating Oreos all day and consider yourself vegan, and you would not be healthy. So it's all about on how you do it. And that's what I was saying at the beginning. Start with whole foods. Every healthy diet starts with the foundation of whole foods. So start with that. I think vegan works for a lot of people because they do tend to transfer from a lot of fast food or processed foods, and they just naturally start eating more vegetables.
Mhm.
So in that case, yeah, I'm all about it. But other than that, be very careful because you can do it the wrong way as well.
Definitely. Also, a huge part of being vegan, especially for our customers that we talk to and for us, is about
Hmm.
being sustainable or about doing the right thing for ethical reasons. For some people, they do it for health reasons, whether lactose
Yep.
intolerance, like my husband, or egg intolerance, like for me. But for
Yep.
some other people, they do it for ethical reasons as well, which is what we would be after. And you'd be surprised how some of the vegan, like the most popular vegan things are sourced. For example, avocados. It's every vegan's dream. It's every vegan's best friend. But
Yep.
we call it blood fruit in our house because as much as we love the taste of avocados, it's a huge, scary industry where people get kidnapped, where people get have their orchards burned, where people have issues like they
Yeah.
cut water supplies from small villages to be able to give water to all the avocado trees instead. And
Hmm.
it's also about the emotional or your contribution to the world. So
Yes.
yeah, so you need to know you're doing the right thing as well before going all vegan and eating all the avocados in the world, and someone across the world has to die for that avocado tree.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I would say the one thing to look out for, something I see commonly with vegans in my clinic, is vitamin B12 deficiency. So vitamin B12 can only last in your liver for about 3 to 5 physiological years until it runs out. And so one of the primary ways that we get vitamin B12 is through meats. And
Mhm.
so usually vegans become quite deficient in B12. They can become anemic as well. So they start
Oh,
experiencing blindness at night. They get weakness and tingling down their legs. Um, some pretty severe symptoms, and it primarily stems from a B12 deficiency. So no matter how many fruits and vegetables you eat, how much spirulina you eat, you might not get enough B12 that your body actually needs.
oh, I didn't know that. So even
Yeah.
spinach wouldn't give the right amount of B12?
It's quite low, quite low.
That's
So you'd have to
interesting.
eat quite a bit, but again, B12
I
does
start my
last in
day
your
with a
liver a little
green
while.
smoothie, and actually 2 years ago, I was diagnosed as extremely high in B12. and I don't take any supplements for B12.
Really? Okay, so you must be eating everything pretty good.
Yeah, the doctor had to advise me to skip it one day and take it one day and skip it the other day.
Really? Oh, that's impressive. That's very impressive. Love it.
Thank you.
Excellent, excellent.
But that's really good for other vegans to know, because maybe they need to supplement or so on if they can't get it through their diet.
Yeah.
I haven't, to be honest, even before, I never used to eat red meat because I don't like meat. Even as a kid, like I had to be forced to eat meat because that's my
Yeah.
food. If I didn't eat it, I wouldn't get food for the rest of the day. So, and
Yeah.
all the things like you have to eat your meat to grow, otherwise you're not gonna grow. All these things.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of a myth. Not necessarily 100% necessary for growth.
Yeah, but hey, I always had my brother sitting next to me, so it was very nice and convenient to put the meat on his plate and trade it for
There
broccoli.
you go. That's smart. That's very smart. Very, very smart.
Cool.
Love
So
it.
we're gonna move to the next question. Any chance we will see you?
What's that?
Any chance we will see you on video? Because the screen is so
Okay. I was wondering about that. Yeah, let me try to get a little bit closer to the Wi-Fi router here, and then I'll see what I
sure.
can do.
Awesome. So to all our guests and Dr. Reutemann, the next question is, how does what we eat affect our bad cholesterol?
That's a good question. That's a very
That's a
good
really
question.
good question, actually. I know
Yep.
a lot of our customers, when they started going keto, a lot of them actually did it because of cholesterol issues. And for people who don't understand keto diet very well, that seemed very bizarre at first because everybody was thinking, but you shouldn't be eating cheese and high fat meat and all this. Um, that would make your cholesterol worse. But at the same time, that's not what keto is about. Yes, it's about cutting out high carb and so on, but it's not about eating cheese and all these unhealthy things.
That's correct. That's spot on. By the way, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you very well. Yeah,
Okay, I'll have video up here in a couple minutes.
sure, no
So
problem.
this is a really good question because there's a common misconception about cholesterol, and people think that the more cholesterol you eat, the higher cholesterol you're going to have in your blood. And that's not necessarily the case. Cholesterol isn't the culprit for most heart diseases, actually. So if you actually look up the function of cholesterol, every cell in our body has to have cholesterol. It's part of the membrane that protects the cell, which allows certain things to get in and out of the cell. So cholesterol is absolutely necessary, and our body makes about 80% of the cholesterol that we have in our body. So why would our body make it if it's harming us?
Yeah.
It wouldn't. So here's where it becomes a problem. It becomes a problem when you eat too much sugar or some sort of inflammatory food, or you have too many free radicals in your bloodstream, and cholesterol comes to the rescue. Now, when they started doing studies on cholesterol back in the 60s, and they did autopsies on people with blood clots, what they found was that, oh, there's a lot of cholesterol in these people that died from these blood clots. Well, that's like blaming the firefighter at the scene of a fire. The cholesterol was there for the rescue. So if you look up the definition of quote unquote LDL, the bad cholesterol, LDL actually goes from the liver to the clot to drop off antioxidants, vitamins A, D, E, and K, CoQ10. We need that. We need LDL. It's not necessarily bad. It's when it becomes out of control from a poor lifestyle decisions or dietary decisions. So your body's pretty interesting in the way that it works with cholesterol, because if you're eating a lot of cholesterol, your body will just stop making as much. So if you're not eating enough cholesterol, your body will just make more. Your body loves to be in homeostasis or in balance. So I'm not too worried about food that are high in cholesterol levels. It's more about the inflammatory foods that are going to cause that whole reaction and cascade of cholesterol to be developed in an artery.
Can you tell us more about these inflammatory foods?
Yeah, so refined sugar is a big one. That's what's going to be causing a lot of the plaques. Now, part of it depends on the individual. You know, are you dealing with an autoimmune issue? Do you have celiacs? Do you have ankylosing spondylitis? Do you have Addison's disease? All of these, you should be meeting with a doctor to make sure that you're getting that under control and knowing what foods you should be eating for your particular diet. That's why it's hard for me to say like there's one specific diet for everyone. It's some people it just needs to be very personalized because
Mhm. Hello?
the very foods. Hello?
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
Yep, absolutely. I'm almost getting
You were saying
video.
some people need to be very personalized,
Yeah, one
diet-wise.
second. That do need a very personalized, specific foods to be avoiding and certain foods to be eating. And that should be guided by a doctor, a physician. So it really kind of depends on that person, what's going to be inflammatory for you. Like someone with celiac disease, they're going to have a lot more inflammation eating gluten than someone that
Hello?
does not have through a doctor.
Yeah. Also, different cultures. For example, I know people from certain cultures have much higher cholesterol than people from other cultures, and that's the natural range.
That's correct. Yep, that's absolutely correct.
Great. And we just got another question in relation to this cholesterol one. I think cholesterol is a huge subject for many people. The question is, my doctor is asking me to take statins. I don't think I want to take statins. What would you advise?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm going to try to get my video back up here because I really want to answer that. Let's see.
You want to answer that while we see you? Hello? All right, so we're going to get Dr. Reutemann back. But for now, I'm back again. So the question we were discussing now is about bad cholesterol. A lot of people say bad cholesterol, you should reduce your food, you should not take this, you should not eat that. According to what we're discussing, it's not actually the food that's high in cholesterol. It's the body producing this food due to the anti-inflammatory, due to the things we put in it that actually inflame the body. Welcome back, Dr. Reutemann.
Hello.
Hey.
I'm not sure why you can't see me, but that's okay. I can answer the question.
Sure. So the question that we just received was about statins, and someone was asking, should they be on statins or should they try to avoid it as they would like to? I think it's the word statins. Whenever I say it, the call drops.
Yes.
There we go.
Yep. The thing to do would be to ask your doctor why you need to be on statins, and then figure out what your numbers are for cholesterol, and start asking deeper questions like, okay, what does LDL do in my body? What does HDL do in my body? And the number that you really want to look out for is VLDL, very low lipoproteins, low density lipoproteins. So those are the ones that you want to be concerned about the most. But cholesterol isn't the bad guy. Remember that. You want to find the deeper root problem. All statins do is they totally deplete your cholesterol levels. And remember, cholesterol is needed for your steroid hormones. So for like, testosterone, estrogen, cortisol, all that, it's necessary to have cholesterol for that. So if you're taking a statin, you're depleting all those hormones as well because you need cholesterol for those hormones. So asking the deeper questions and maybe finding another route to lower whatever number your doctor is concerned about.
That's including avoiding inflammatory foods.
Yes. Yep.
And another question we just got on YouTube is, are soya-based foods inflammatory?
It depends on where the soy is coming from, but remember, 90% of soy that is made is genetically modified. So it
Yes,
probably will cause a inflammatory response of some kind physiologically in your blood. Good
I
question.
see.
Yep.
Oh God, actually, I think this subject opened. Maybe we should do a whole episode just on cholesterol.
Yeah, I think so. There we go.
We got another question on YouTube, and it's from a lady called Val, and it's saying, what are some of the foods you would recommend to improve overall gut health and reduce cholesterol? And what kind of foods undermine overall gut health or make cholesterol worse?
Yeah, so kind of what we talked about
Very good
earlier,
question.
starting with, yeah, it's a very good question. Starting with raw whole foods, starting with a plant-based diet, things that are very rich in vegetables and fruit that are organic. That in itself will probably take you a long ways in helping your cholesterol levels.
Mhm.
But remember, removing the negatives. What are the negative things that you can remove from your diet? I don't know what this particular
Bread,
individual is eating, but yeah, bread.
non-Yummzy
Get
bread. Yummzy bread
Yes,
is okay.
Yummzy bread's totally fine because I know you're all gluten-free and grain-free. Um, so yeah, it's mainly cutting out the bad stuff with the refined sugars, the gluten, the um, high calorie, low nutrient dense foods, fast food. Start with stuff like that and see how that plays a role in your cholesterol. Now remember, exercise plays a role in your cholesterol too. So
Yeah.
maybe making sure that you're getting 30 minutes of some physical activity, even if it's just like a mild walk. Getting something like that involved would be helpful for some cholesterol levels.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Also, stress affects cholesterol. Is that true?
That is very true because what we mentioned earlier, the steroid hormones in your body are dependent on cholesterol. So one of the steroid hormones is cortisol, which is a response to stress. When we're stressed out, cortisol gets released. So you're going to have a really hard time battling with stress and dealing with stress if you're very low in cholesterol. So very
Okay.
good question.
Yeah, they are very good questions indeed. I think cholesterol is a huge subject. Maybe we should even have a whole episode just on cholesterol in the future,
I think
because
so.
it will feature later again as well about cholesterol. Oh,
Yes.
and the last part of the question is, did we answer what kind of foods would you recommend for cholesterol reduction?
For cholesterol reduction in particular, it kind of depends on what number you're looking to reduce. So if
Mm-hmm.
it's triglycerides that you're really concerned about, that is highly related to carbohydrate intake. So if your other numbers look really good, but your triglycerides are very high, you need to start cutting out some carbs.
Okay.
So cutting out anything that's highly carbohydrate diets, you got to cut that out. And remember, there's gluconeogenesis that happens as well. So if you have a really high protein diet where you're just pounding, 100 grams of whey protein every day, maybe cut down on that too, because that will convert to sugars in your blood.
Yeah.
So
I have another confession to make.
yes, let's hear it.
Father, I have sinned. No, I'm joking. Um, my confession is actually in my mid 20s. I only went low carb in my early 20s, so when I was 20 or 21, so about 15 years ago. But in my mid 20s, when I was still fiddling with the idea of low carb or not low carb or this or that,
Yeah. Yep.
I was actually having very high triglycerides. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. And hello? Oh, we lost Dr. Reutemann again, but he is back.
Sorry, it's telling me I got to restart the app here, and then my video will work. So,
Okay, amazing.
do you mind if I do that real quick?
No, go for it. I'll tell my confession to you afterwards.
Okay, great. All right, perfect.
So, guys, thank you for all the questions you're sending through on YouTube, on Instagram. We are asking them as they come in. We were just answering how food affects our cholesterol, and we found out that it's not cholesterol foods that affect your cholesterol. Most of cholesterol is actually produced by your body. The body needs it, But obviously, if it's if it's inflammatory foods, and that includes things like refined sugar, things like highly processed foods, things like high carbs, all of these things can affect your cholesterol in a bad way. Now, this is very shocking for a few of you probably, because we've always been told avoid foods that are high in cholesterol, like eggs, avoid this, avoid that. But it's not actually the cholesterol in the food that is to blame. It's more what else do we put in our bodies and how it inflames our bodies. For some people, that could be gluten. For some people, that could be something like sugars. For some people, it could even be genetically modified food. So it depends what food you put in your body, and your body reacts to that by creating the cholesterol in different quantities. I was just about to make a confession about my cholesterol.
Yes.
And the confession was that in my mid-20s, before I went fully low carb and looking at the alkaline diet and this and that, my cholesterol was actually, it reached to a high of 8.8.
Oh, really?
Which is extremely high. Now, for someone in their mid-20s, I know I've been diabetic since I was a toddler, but for someone in their mid-20s, that was horrific. And I wasn't overweight. I used to go to the gym every day, 2 hours. And I was not overweight. I felt really horrible. I felt like I was 80.
Yeah.
You feel like you can't breathe. You drag yourself everywhere. You're constantly tired. You can't sleep at night. You can't do things that a 20-year-old should be able to do. But here's the fun part. When I switched to low carb, and my doctor wanted to put me on statins, and the only reason I didn't go on statins at the point is because I was told it's not good to conceive children when you're on statins. So maybe try to delay it as much as possible. And because of that, I thought, okay, at the time I wasn't thinking to have children, but I thought, hey, maybe I want to have children in the next few years. So I don't want to stop that thought. So I kept pushing it and telling the doctor, give me time, telling my diabetes consultant, give me time. Let me see what I can do. Let me change my diet. Let me this. Let me have green smoothies every morning and that. I was still going to the gym. Nowadays I don't go to the gym as much. Actually, I don't even go except for once a week maybe, but I do go on walks with our dog. Nowadays I'm low carb. Nowadays my cholesterol is 4.6.
Really?
No statins touched, nothing touched. Just my lifestyle, just cutting out things that my body did not need or things that would inflame my body. To be honest, I'm not even intolerant to gluten. I'm not even intolerant to lactose. I did intolerance tests many times. My problem with normal bread is yeast. My problem with my problem is not lactose, so I can drink milk. But my problem is I can't psychologically get through the idea of drinking milk coming out of a cow and not a human. I don't even want a human's milk, but you get my point. I think it's just I think it's just cutting out the things that were not serving me that helped, and I'm grateful for that because now I'm 36 as of yesterday.
Hey, happy birthday.
I just turned 36. I'm 36 and my cholesterol is much better than what it was when I was in my early 20s or mid 20s.
Isn't that amazing?
It is. And you have no idea how many doctors tried to get me on statins. And even now that I'm 4.6, they're like, yeah, but as a diabetic, it should be under 3. And I'm like, oh, guys, come on. I need a bit of cholesterol for my brain.
Yes, exactly. They will find any way they can to put you on a statin because it just gives them a monthly income. They even tried to get my dad on a statin because they said, oh, this is for preventative measures. Well, your cholesterol is just fine. You know, it's absolutely ridiculous what they try to pull in order to get you on a statin.
It is. And that's really why we love working with you, because your way of medicine is not to secure your paycheck. You know you're good. You know you're going to get the paycheck in other ways. You don't need to put people on medication and things they do not need.
Right. And it's really finding a doctor that's going to find the root cause. So even if you did have way out of control cholesterol levels, your body is giving you high cholesterol for a reason. Figure out that reason. What in the world is happening that's causing all that cholesterol to happen in the first place? Is your HbA1c through the roof? You know, is there something in your diet that you're missing? Is there some sort of emotional trauma that's causing a lot of anxiety and stress? Does that need to be addressed? It's not as simple as just a pill usually. So finding a doctor
The
that's
pill
going to find that
masks the
underlying root
condition
cause.
rather than heals it. The pill masks the condition rather than heals it. So people definitely
It
need to
does.
dig into it.
It does. Yep.
Amazing. Well, I'm gonna move out of this question that we didn't receive any more questions on it
Okay.
because the team's call is took half an hour, but a very useful half an hour, I have to say. And I
Yes.
hope our viewers are also finding it useful.
I hope
So
so too.
we'll move to the next question. What foods kill bad bacteria? This question actually came as two different questions. So one was asking, how do I optimize my body performance by avoiding, by eating certain foods? And the other question was saying, how do I avoid problems with like bacteria and fungal growth and things like that in the body? So we combined it and said, what foods kill bad bacteria? But that also included fungal and things like that.
Right. So what you want to think about is you actually want to change your paradigm to what foods kill bacteria and switch it to what foods are causing bad bacteria. And the number one thing that feeds off bad bacteria and yeast infections and candida and things like that is sugar, refined sugar. You can look it up in any PubMed research. They feed off of sugar. So I would change your paradigm to first, the very foundation, say what high sugar foods should I be removing from my diet? Is it soda? Is there some sort of donuts? Like, can I switch to a keto friendly type of dessert? Something to switch over to that. Yeah, go over to Yummzy and find something. Find a good alternative.
Thanks for our donuts.
Yeah, exactly. So, but foods that do fight off bacteria are literally the bitter fruits and vegetables that you can find. So things like lemons, strawberries, things that have a little bit more bitter taste to it, they usually tend to be higher in vitamin C. And so vitamin C is pretty good at fighting off bacteria.
Grapefruit.
Yes,
grapefruit. Grapefruit. I am addicted to grapefruit.
You are? Okay, is that your favorite?
Guava would be my favorite, but my second favorite would be grapefruit.
Okay. What do you think about berries?
Both alkaline.
Okay, yes, very true. Very true. What do you think about strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, things like that?
I'm very weird with things like that. I know ladies usually like these kind of sweet things. For me, I will eat a strawberry only if I can eat it with fresh mint and only fresh strawberry. You'll never catch me eating strawberry ice cream or anything flavored of strawberry, but you might catch me eating a fresh strawberry with fresh mint. If there is no mint, I am not touching the strawberry.
Interesting. Is that because you get an upset stomach otherwise, or?
No, I'm just not. My taste. Then again, I am weird like that. I can't taste salt. So I only know if food has salt if it's too salty to the point my lips and my eyes start reacting to it.
Yes.
Like I get tears or I get dry lips and I'm like, oh, this is salty. By which point my husband is already spitting it out and he's like, this is over salted.
Yes. Interesting. Very, very interesting.
So I never had the taste for, I like sour fruits. So things like grapefruit, even oranges, sweet oranges.
Interesting.
Sour oranges, I love it.
You like the sour? That's good. That usually means there's more vitamin C in there. And actually, speaking of salt, salt kills bacteria.
Really?
Yep, salt destroys bacteria.
Preservative.
So sometimes I will. I mean, I'm a little bit weird, but sometimes I will just dump salt in the palm of my hand, some Celtic sea salt, if I've been around someone that's had a bacterial infection or something, and I'll just wash it down with water. Or, salt lamp, stuff like that. Yeah.
With water and salt. That's actually very true.
Yep. Or I don't know if you've ever done some research on epidemiology of people that live by the ocean, but the ocean is obviously very little with salt water. And people don't get bacterial infections very often out there if they're living right on the coast. And so it's kind of a cause and effect, but it's very interesting.
When we were kids, I remember whenever I had tonsillitis, my grandmother would say, just take her to the beach. She's going to be fine. And that was very true when I did manage to get to the beach.
Really?
The next day.
Oh, your grandma knew what.
I don't know if it's because of my cousins bullying me and pushing me into the water and drinking half of the sea's water. Or
It worked.
It
Amazing.
worked.
Your grandma knew.
She did. We just got another question through related to vitamin C. Someone is asking, is there something such as too much vitamin C, and can it be bad for the health?
Yeah, that's a really good question. In
Yeah.
short, no. You can't really overdose on vitamin C, and here's why. You have two different types of vitamins. You have fat-soluble vitamins and you have water-soluble vitamins. Your fat-soluble vitamins are vitamins A, D, E, and K. And those are usually found, ADEC, yep. So it's usually found in like butter or, meat or something like that. But those you have to have fat in order to absorb those vitamins. That's why they're called fat soluble. Otherwise, they won't get into the cell. Water soluble is totally different. You'll just absorb that with water, and 70% of your body's water anyway. So if you don't need the vitamin C and you just took like way too much of it, your body's just going to pee it out. It'll just, the kidneys will filter it through. So there's not really.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's no real toxic effects because the kidneys really do take care of it. Now you can get some loose stools. That is a side effect if you are overdosing on vitamin C, just because it relaxes the smooth muscle of the gut. But yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about it. I take about 6,000 milligrams per day intermittently throughout the day. So you can take quite a bit.
Okay. What about people with diabetes who have kidney issues? Is that still perfectly safe for them to exceed normal vitamin C quantities and everything?
Yes. I mean, I wouldn't go overboard, but I knew a professional baseball player that had type 1 diabetes, and they were taking 10,000 milligrams a day.
Wow.
So, it can be pretty safe on the body, especially if you're drinking enough water.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's another problem. A lot of people don't hydrate as much as they should. So, yeah, definitely something to look out for.
And I would say this too. You're overdoing it if you are having loose stools. That is your sign that you're doing too much at once. Maybe try to break it down intermittently throughout the day then, if you're starting to experience that.
All right. Good to know. Good to know that side effect.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, it just came through YouTube. Guys watching us, thanks for the amazing questions. Because I'll be honest, the questions you sent us on the live now, a lot of them are very useful for everyone. So keep them coming.
Yeah. These are really good questions that even my patients ask me all the time. So it's good to hear from people. Yeah.
Amazing. And the next question is, what is the relationship between poor nutrition and disease? This is a huge question, so I'll let you break it down the way you want.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Well, I'll start with this. You can look up on PubMed, peer-reviewed research. We know as a fact that 70% of our immune system comes from our gut or our microbiome. So the relationship between nutrition and disease is massive because what we're putting in our mouth has a direct correlation with our immune system function. And what do we know about disease? Disease does not typically happen overnight. Diabetes doesn't happen overnight. It happens from a million bad meals that add up and compound to a disease. Your body's had enough. So nutrition is kind of the same way in that, you're always either feeding disease or fighting disease, or you're either feeding your health or destroying your health. And so nutrition has a direct correlation with your immune system and how your organs function. But keep in mind that this happens over time. So it's a lot of really small decisions adding up to a very profound outcome, especially when we're talking about disease, cancer, things like that. I mean, all that stuff, it does not happen overnight. It's a very long period of time of very poor nutrition decisions that's causing disruption with your hormones, with your regulation of your organs, all that stuff. Over time, eventually it's too late and your body's had enough, and then you have a disease.
No, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. And is there a particular disease that this person who's asking the question is concerned about? Do you know in particular, like diabetes or?
They didn't mention. No, they didn't mention. If they are watching the live, please send us if you are concerned about a specific disease, and we can delve into that more.
How would you say because you deal with people all the time that are probably coming into your restaurant and getting foods from you that have disease, and that's why they're coming in to see you. So what's been the transformation that you've seen? What's the correlation that you see between nutrition and disease? I'm sure you have some pretty amazing testimonies that you've heard.
Yeah, so I think the first most obvious one is when customers have been walking in for months, you actually see the transformation in their body. I see a lot of people because a lot of them go low carb and that's why they come to us. Or a lot of them find out they've been lactose intolerant and that's why they come to us for vegan and lactose free things.
Yeah.
We see totally different transformations, and I think everybody has their story and inspirational stories to tell. But the biggest difference for us is people losing weight. So we see a lot of people shed a lot of weight over the months they come to us. We received an email from a loyal customer who used to live near our cafe before we closed it. And we got an email from him a few weeks ago getting angry with us and saying, I blame you for me putting on 9 stones because you guys are not next door to me. So now I have to wait for other deliveries or other places or unhealthy food.
Oh my goodness.
And I replied to him saying, we miss you too. You know, you can order from us online.
Yes. So people really do.
It's not like being next door.
Yeah. Again, another reason why I wish you were here in the United States. We could sure
Hey,
use.
we're open for franchising, so whoever wants to talk to us. But that was the main thing. The other main thing we realized a lot is people's skin. A lot of people, even in winter, when you're not having oily weather, like hot weather that causes the skin to oil up and all of this, we see a lot of people that used to be covered in acne, and they're adults, they're not teenagers. We're talking people over 20, people in their 30s, 40s, and they're covered in acne. But once they start changing their diet, we see a huge transformation in that. Now, the funniest thing is when someone comes to us and says, oh, I'm quitting gluten because my test results came back saying I'm gluten intolerant or I can't have gluten. And then their partner is like, give me all the gluten in the shop. And we're like, sorry, we don't serve gluten. We don't have gluten. You'll have to go next door. But then it's funny when after a few months, that partner comes in and says, oh no, I'm not touching gluten. Although I'm not intolerant to it, it was actually giving me pimples, or it was actually giving me acne, or it was giving me back pain, or it was giving me this or that. So one of the poor nutrition things I would say that we observed was gluten. Even people who are keto and don't eat bread or buy gluten-free things, not from us, but from other places that have risk of contamination and so on. Unfortunately, they didn't get the results they wanted because there was that risk of contamination or there was a little bit of gluten from the ingredients used because they were handled in a gluten factory or grown near a near a flour farm or anything like that. So gluten was a huge thing. And last but not least, it was gluten, weight loss, and skin. The other thing that we observed a lot is people drinking water. So when people start a healthy diet, a lot of them download this water app, and that app literally transforms lives because even if you forget to drink, even if you're not drinking enough, that app literally harasses you into drinking water. So you have no way of escaping that. You gotta drink your water, otherwise that app will literally bully you over it. And even people who are really busy. I used to work in consulting, and I used to be in meeting rooms sometimes for 16 hours when trying to finish a huge deal or something. And I wish I had that app because it would literally bully me into drinking water at the right time.
Interesting. So does it just give you notifications on how much to drink and when to drink?
Basically, it gives you an alarm, and depending how harassing it is, some of them just give you an alarm as a reminder, and then it relies on you to be an adult to go and drink. Others, they give you an alarm, and you basically have to like scan a picture of a water glass or something to confirm that you've done your job. I downloaded that one because my colleague told me, oh, it's so cool and this and that. And then the next day I was like, okay, uninstall this thing from my phone.
That's a really smart app idea, actually.
I know, and you know what? Probably if I took a photo of my shoes, it would have still taken it as a guarantee that I drank my water. But
Okay.
it's the fact that you feel you have to be honorable with the app and show it like
Yep.
you're drinking water.
Yep. Exactly. And you know what? I'll say this too. A lot of times, people that struggle with just ravish appetites, where they just feel like they can't stop eating, a lot of it is actually you're dehydrated. You know, you're not
Yes,
drinking enough water. And
yes,
so that is a good app recommendation for people that are struggling with eating too much or binge eating.
definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we're gonna move to the next question. We didn't hear from the person who asked the previous question about
What disease?
the relationship between poor nutrition and disease. The next question might be from the same person, actually.
Okay.
Does carnivore keto diet affect gout? Now, this was asked by two people. And one question was, how does it affect gout? And the other one was saying, I realize when I eat a lot of red meat on keto, my knees suffer, my fingers suffer, and my gout just gets worse. What is the way around this?
Yeah,
So they
so
were,
you really have to look at the source of the meat and where it's coming from. So there is actually a study that I referenced to a lot of my patients where there was two groups of cattle, and they were raised over 120 days, and one group was fed corn for that 120 days. The other group, Group B, was fed grass for 120 days. Now, mind you, cows are herbivores. They're made to eat herbs, grass, not
yeah,
corn.
I
And
never
so
knew they could eat corn until now, actually.
exactly. Well, yeah, they feed them corn and then they get sick and then they pump them with antibiotics and hormones and stuff because they're
Yeah,
getting so sick. So if you're eating from a cow that is, or meat that is being pumped with all those hormones and antibiotics, and that becomes a part of you. So you can imagine what kind of, inflammatory process it's going to put on you. It's interesting though, because the results at the end of the study, they did blood work on both of these groups of cattle. The corn-fed group had a 7.65 to 1 ratio omega-6 to omega-3, meaning it was incredibly inflammatory.
yeah,
The other group, on the other hand, had a 1.5 to 1 omega-3 to omega-6, so actually opposite.
yeah.
So, gout
And
is
they
an
lived on the same
inflammatory.
field, the same everything, just the diet was different.
The diet was different. Yep. And so you got
It's
to
not like
remember that.
the goat that was on grass fed. It's not like they were taking them on jogs while the other guys were just told to sleep or whatever.
Correct. Yeah. It was just the free range had the corn and probably needed antibiotics and all that other different stuff. And they also measured CLA, which is conjugated linoleic acid, which helps convert fatty acids to energy, significantly higher in the grass-fed cows. So you got to ask yourself the question: which source are you eating from? Because if you're eating from the inflammatory group, so the non-grass-fed, the non-organic, that becomes part of you. No wonder it's going to cause an inflammatory reaction.
Yeah, of course.
So I would say first question where you're getting that source from, where the source of meat. And we've talked about this earlier, Jolie, is quality really matters. That's why you're different from every other place, because you actually care about the gluten-free, the keto, the vegan. This stuff is starting to trend for good reason, because it will
Organic,
cause.
GMO-free.
Yes. Yep. That is essential. I believe with this pandemic going on, fast food should be banned from consumption.
Can I tell you what's happening in the UK?
Please. Yeah. I'd love
Which
to hear.
breaks my heart. So, because of the pandemic, the government is trying to help businesses, and they introduced this scheme called Eat Out, Help Out. And
Uh-oh.
basically, what the scheme does is, if you go to any participating restaurant, now I admire this if it was targeted only on to independent businesses.
Yep.
If you go to any restaurant, whether an independent, a small independent, or if you go to McDonald's that's participating, if you're buying a Lucky Meal, I don't know what's a Lucky Meal nowadays, or whatever it's called, like the McDonald's Big Mac meal or whatever. Let's say it's for £3. Yeah, let's say it's for £3. Guys, don't quote me on prices. Last time I stepped into McDonald's was when I was 18. So almost centuries ago.
Yes.
But yeah, so basically they don't charge you £3. They charge you £1.50, and the government pays McDonald's or the participating restaurant the other £1.50. Now, this is meant to help refresh the economy or revive the economy. I feel sorry for my grandchildren, because obviously they're going to be the ones paying this, not the government, because let's face it, the government will tax them to the from now. So I feel sorry for grandchildren who are going to be paying this.
Right.
But at the same time, I feel really sorry because the government has these schemes called Sugar Smart and this and that. And unfortunately, while they're saying to people, sugar is bad for you, they're also saying, hey, go grab a double Mac and a McFlurry, and we're going to give it to you at half price.
Yep.
And suddenly people are going crazy because, let's face it, there are a lot of people who are interested in unhealthy food, but maybe the price barrier would stop them. We campaigned a lot to the government to help small businesses that like encourage no use of sugar, that encourage low carb, that encourage all of this. But unfortunately, according to the government here, it's calories that count, not carbs, not sugar. And so something can be called healthy because it's low calorie, but that could be a bar that's made out of syrup.
Yeah, right.
And you and I both know 1 gram of fat is double the calories of 1 gram of protein or 1 gram of carbohydrate. So unfortunately, it's so cheap to make the word healthy fit with things that are deadly for people. But unfortunately, this is happening at the moment.
That's unconscionable because they're going to have a massive medical bill down the road.
Oh, but maybe that's what they want. Then they have the pharmaceutical industry thriving.
Right.
So.
Right. Yep. That's exactly it. It's all a business. Yeah. Yep. But hey, hopefully more business for you as long as the word gets out that quality really does matter.
It does. It does. And I really hope they reassess the situation, because if they want to revive the economy in that way, I think they should definitely try to encourage, make it, the scheme is great, but make it that places selling unhealthy things. Like, you know what? If someone buys a salad at McDonald's or whatever, give it to them, buy out, help out. If someone buys something healthy, encourage them and give it to them at that price. But if someone is buying something not healthy, you know what? Double the price to be able to pay for the healthy stuff being half price.
I agree 100%. I love the way you think.
You have to be a nanny sometimes to make sure everybody's doing the right thing.
That's exactly right, Jolie.
So the next question is, what can we avoid for better health?
You know, I really like this question because it kind of circles back to what we talked about at the beginning, that it's more powerful to remove a negative than to simply add a positive. So what can we avoid? Number one, I would say refined sugar.
Yeah,
and here's why.
Featured a lot in your answers.
Yes, it's a lot of my answers, but it's very important because there was a study done where they measured people's fasting blood glucose, which is supposed to be under 100 milligrams per deciliter, by the way. And what they found was that when that breaches 120, your fasting blood glucose, it weakens your white blood cell activity by 40%. And what do white blood cells do? They fight off infections. So especially right now, if you're eating too much sugar and your blood glucose is going above 120, you have almost half your immune system working. So it's unconscionable to be eating food like the fast food that apparently your government is promoting, when we know all well, you know, through peer-reviewed research that it's going to destroy your white blood cell activity by almost half.
By the way, for any people watching this, the 100
milligrams per deciliter.
Yeah, that translates to what we would say is 5.5 millimole per liter.
Yes, thank you. Yep, perfect.
Sorry, I had to point that out.
That's good. Yeah, it's a little bit different in the U.S. So yeah, so I would say, you know, what can you avoid for better health? That would be a great way to start. I would also say avoid gluten. That no matter if you have
people who are intolerant to it.
Good question. Especially for those who are intolerant, but everyone should be off that. And the reason why is because gluten gets absorbed in the ileum, which is the very distal part of your small intestine, your colon. And that is where it gets absorbed.
Mm.
The other thing is, though, iron gets absorbed there. Other vitamins get absorbed in that same spot. So gluten is going to fight for absorption and inhibit other nutrients from getting absorbed. That's why some people become anemic actually from gluten, is because they're not getting any iron absorption in the ileum because gluten is on fire and just getting absorbed through the ileum first. It's fighting
That's
for
even
absorption.
worse for celiacs
Yeah.
because
So,
it's destroyed at that point.
right. Now, you mentioned you didn't have celiac, so I'm curious, what do you feel like when you consume gluten? Have you
For
tried
me,
that? Yeah.
to be honest, I avoid gluten for my own good reason. My husband is the one who's intolerant to gluten. So if he has
Okay.
gluten, lots of spots on his face, joint pains, things like that. In my case, I am actually, well, according to intolerance tests, one of them came back saying maybe I'm celiac. One of them came back saying, no, you're fine. You don't have a problem with gluten. But we don't know if it's because I wasn't eating gluten before the test or if it's generally that I don't have a problem with gluten. But my whole kind of adult life, I avoided bread because I'm intolerant. I'm not intolerant. I'm actually allergic to yeast. And
Okay.
all bread is made with yeast. Most alcohol is made with yeast. So
Yes.
if I have
Yep.
anything with yeast, the next day I'm covered in rash on my joints, my
Okay.
everything. But I also avoided gluten because I believe in what you call like also a caveman diet, to try and keep our diet as clean as possible, like our grandparents, ancestors. And let's face it,
Yep.
nowadays, like we have customers always asking us this question, and they say, but my grandmother used to eat bread and she didn't have any problems with gluten. Why are you guys making all these problems now? Well, first of all, your grandmother didn't go get tested for gluten issues. And maybe that's why your grandmother died at 54 rather than
Right.
85 or something. So we
Right.
don't know, because it's not like people were that keen or good at looking up health issues and so on. And the second thing we always say is, when your grandmother was cooking with flour, she took like wheat and grinded it
Yes.
and made flour out of it. But in your case, people can actually buy gluten and add it to the food to make it better and to make it higher in protein and to make it fluffier and to give it all of these things. So
Yep.
suddenly you're not taking the natural amounts that come in nature. Suddenly you're taking it in huge and extreme amounts. It's the same way if you had to hunt your own food or gather it
Yep.
or whatever. You're not going to
Yep.
grow as obese as just walking to the supermarket, clearing the shelf, and
Yep.
eating it. It's so much easier and accessible now that we don't even know how we're harming ourselves by adding things that would not normally be in our diet.
That is the perfect answer. It's not created the same as it once was.
Yeah.
You know, think of all the glyphosate that's being sprayed on all of our
Oh
grains
God.
these days just to make the crops grow a little bit faster and get rid of weeds and pesticides. Yet we know it's causing non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in people left and right. So it's really the quality and where you're getting it from, you know, and unfortunately the dollar chases you know, whatever's popular and trending, and people are falling for it.
Unfortunately, I see low carb places that actually add gluten. So it's a
Really?
low carb thing. And then suddenly in the ingredients, you see wheat and gluten. And I'm like, guys, why would you do this?
Yep.
I try to do it indirectly because this is wrong. Like, what we stand for is healthy. Why would you do that?
Yep. Yep. I'm so glad you mentioned that because you know what? People, keto is trending right now in the US. I don't know about over in the UK, but keto is trending, which is good because it gets people away from sugar. But there's a loophole because, again, if you're eating keto, but you're eating tons of gluten, that's wrong. It's still wrong. So unfortunately, there's so many different levels of things, boxes that you have to check off, like no gluten, get away from the refined sugar, you know,
Yeah.
get away from the vegetable oils, things like that. But foundationally, stick to whole foods. Stick to whole foods. That is the best answer I could give you because you're so right. People think just because I'm on keto, I'm healthy, which I'm a huge advocate for keto. it's not the case, because for that reason, people can sneak in that gluten. And I'll tell you what, a lot of packaged foods, they sneak in soy, they sneak in all these different sugar alcohols that are bad for you, or aspartame or something like that. So it's, you just got to be extra vigilant about reading the ingredients on the packages.
Definitely, definitely. Actually, I have a friend of mine who's been on keto for over a year, and she's been trying to lose weight so bad.
Yeah.
We used to go to the gym together. I was training her. I used to do boxing as a hobby, so I used to be a boxing trainer. And I was training her. She was doing all the right exercises. She was telling me she's eating keto. She's eating keto. She was not losing weight. No matter how much
Okay.
she was just stagnating at the weight. And then I said to her, let me see like a food diary. Let's do a food diary together. So what did you eat today? And she was saying, oh, I ate this and that and that. And okay, like most of what she ate was meat or very low carb plants, but it didn't make sense. And then I said, okay, how did you cook this? I fried it.
Oh,
How did you cook that? Oh, I added cheese to it and then I fried it. And I'm like, you're fried cheese. What's wrong with you? And then I was like, okay, what drinks do you have? Oh, I have 3 coffees. Okay, that's okay. Coffee, you can have coffee. But then the problem was when she said, oh, and I have like a few Diet Cokes. And then I said to her, you do realize the body keeps fat close to protect its organs. And the more bad things you put in the body, even a Diet Coke, like it seems 0 calorie, but it's actually not going to promote the body's health. So it's a toxin. Even alcohol is a toxin. So the body will be like, ooh, toxins, I need to be safe. Let me hold dear to that fat and protect my organs. And I said to her, your fat is not going to shed off because your body feels it's being violated through toxins. So and I was like, cut out the Diet Cokes, make it 1 bulletproof coffee a day.
Yes, exactly.
Don't have I said to her, drink as much matcha as you want. I'm a matcha addict, I admit. I said to her, drink as much matcha as you need to cover up for the coffee. And last but not least, try to drink a lot of water. And obviously, don't fry your cheese and your food and this and that. Just stick it in the oven if you have to brush it with a little bit of coconut oil. And it took her 3 months and she lost the weight she couldn't lose in a year.
Really?
It took her 3 months. Same food, same diet, same everything. Just changing the cooking technique and just changing her choice of 0 calorie snacks.
Yeah, that is amazing. That is amazing. Quality goes a long way.
Definitely, definitely. So another question, and there's a typo there, but we just copied the question. Are there any diets you would not recommend?
The United States food pyramid diet.
I can say the same about the UK one.
All right, so let's avoid those because flip it. Yes, exactly. Flip it over. This is kind of a tricky question because we kind of touched on this earlier. Every diet has its own loophole, so there's not necessarily one I don't disagree with because they all have their benefits. But again, it comes down to quality and certain principles that apply for everything. Not using refined sugars. Are you primarily plant-based? Are you primarily getting fruits and vegetables? There isn't one particular diet that comes to mind that I steer people away from. I would say an important diet you should stick with is something that you can be adherent to. So something that you can actually stick with without failing or giving up. Because sometimes people go way too quickly, way too soon. I give my patients this example all the time. Is it healthy to run and run a marathon? Yes, absolutely. But I can't just go tell you to run a marathon right now. It would actually harm you. If we do it slowly over time and build to that discipline and diligence to where you're increasing your mileage, that's the best way of doing it. Same thing with diets for some people. You can't just go cold turkey right away. It'll actually harm you in the same way if you just ran 26 miles tomorrow. You kind of have to take small steps at a time because your body likes slow adaptations.
Definitely. And well, as someone who works in the low carb industry, I can say I hate low calorie diets.
Low calorie?
Low calorie diets, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one to not recommend. Yeah.
Calories. Well, what if they're garbage calories and they're restricted? Are we cool with that?
Yes, right. You know, I'm glad you brought that up too, because a lot of people who struggle with weight loss actually don't eat enough. They don't
Yeah,
eat enough healthy
they don't do
foods
the right
that, yes, exactly. They don't eat enough nutrients that are actually getting their metabolism to work so that they can actually burn off enough
Mm.
calories. So like hypothyroidism, people with Hashimoto, so I don't know if any of your listeners have that, but you talk to someone with Hashimoto's and they exercise and they gain weight. I mean, it is so, their hormones are so backed up. It is unbelievable. They feel like they can't do anything. They can't eat anything. Otherwise, they gain 20 pounds immediately. And it all has to do with hormone dysregulation from eating the wrong foods. So as soon as you eat the right foods, it's not about eating less, it's about eating the right foods. Your hormones become in balance, and then you start burning off proper calories, and the weight just starts shedding off.
Wow. Actually,
So,
we just got a question in about Hashimoto. Now that you mention it, someone is
okay.
asking, so what foods should I be eating or avoiding for my Hashimoto's?
Yeah, you'll definitely want to get a full thyroid panel done by your doctor, and that would include a multitude of tests to figure out where your dysregulation is coming from. It could be coming from your pituitary gland, it could be coming from your thyroid gland, or it could be happening in the blood and the cell is just not becoming active. So figuring
Mm.
out where that disconnect is very important, figuring that out first. However, with that being said, things that trigger Hashimoto's are gluten, high,
Yay, featured
yep,
again.
grains, and a lot of sugar, refined sugar again. So avoiding those would be good, but seafood, things that are high in iodine and selenium is going to help convert that T4 to T3 to make sure that your thyroid is functioning optimally, but you want to be under a guidance of a physician for figuring out the right diet for you.
Amazing. And I think also for seafood, if they're going to go down that way, they really need to make sure they're getting it from the right place, because there's a lot of
Yes.
food at the moment that's got high mercury, that's got
Yep.
high issues with certain farming issues and so on.
Yep.
So definitely clean wild ocean.
Yes. You
Yeah.
want wild caught fish, and you don't want the you don't want small fish that are on the surface, the bottom feeders is what I was looking for. You want,
Uh,
like salmon, things like that are going to be rich in the omega-3s.
awesome. Oh, this is taking us back to gluten again.
All right.
If I'm not intolerant, guys, we're gluten free. Why all the gluten questions?
Yeah.
If I'm not intolerant to gluten, should I still avoid it? And if so, why? I know we discussed it earlier, but if we can give them like a summary and just a different idea.
Yeah. Yeah. So gluten does cause an inflammatory reaction in the gut, no matter if you're gluten intolerant or not. It just depends on the degree at which it is affecting your gut. So a good example would be like a diabetic. A diabetic, if they eat sugar, they don't have enough insulin to bring their blood sugar down. So it has a really bad reaction for them in particular because they have an autoimmune condition.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with gluten and people with celiacs. If someone that has celiac disease and they take gluten, they're going to have a massive outbreak. They're going to have serious side effects. However,
Wow.
if someone who's not gluten intolerant like myself takes it, I'm still going to have a reaction, but it just won't be as noticeable, or I might not even notice it, but on the inside, you're still having a reaction. It's just not quite the same because I don't have an autoimmune condition. Now, another thing to keep in mind is, remember, gluten fights for absorption same as iron. So you risk potentially becoming anemic because they're both fighting for absorption in the ileum, along with other nutrients as well.
And then the gluten would leave a nice sludge there, which means even after it's gone, you
Yep. Yeah, and it takes,
still don't have
gluten.
perfect absorption.
Yes. Yeah. And gluten's like glue. It sticks around the body for a while. So if you really want to see if gluten is, having a cause and effect on you, you need to get rid of it for like 30 days to really know if it's actually getting out of your system and making a difference. Don't just get off it for 2 days and say, oh, it's not working.
Wow, 30 days. That's really long because let's face it, even if you go to a restaurant and you ask for
Mm-hmm.
something without gluten, they could be cooking with gluten and you wouldn't even know it's in the sauce or it's in the ingredients without being told it's bread or whatever.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Wow, that's very
Good
good to
question.
know. So many days. Yeah, it is. It is. What are some of the common autoimmune diseases and what types of food can help with that?
With autoimmune diseases, what types of food can help with that? So it depends on your autoimmune condition, but what we know is there are two main foods that really trigger autoimmunes, and that is gluten and soy. So at all
So the
costs,
cold types
avoiding
of soy or genetically modified ones?
particularly genetically modified.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, like 90% of soy is genetically modified.
Yeah.
So avoiding that at all costs if you can. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But let's describe what an autoimmune condition is. An autoimmune condition is when the body is attacking an organ of itself with its own immune cells, its own antibodies. Antibodies are Y-shaped proteins that are supposed to fight off different infections and different harmful cells in our body. And the problem is when your body actually gets confused and it starts attacking its own organ. So, for
Mm,
example, with celiacs, the antibodies start attacking the intestines,
yeah.
and that's not good. You don't want that. Same thing with like ankylosing spondylitis. Someone that's dealing with that, your antibodies start attacking your joints and your spine.
Yeah.
Addison's disease, starts attacking the kidneys, and you don't produce any cortisol hormones to regulate stress. So, depending on what condition you have, there are some physicians that you might be able to find where they will give you a supplement, a physician grade supplement that has to do with that particular organ. So, let's just say Addison's disease, for example, that attacks the kidneys. They will give you a supplement of a kidney tissue. They'll give you kidney tissue from like another animal or another source. You consume that pill, and then the antibodies attack that pill because it's a decoy. So it provides relief for whatever organ has been constantly inflamed and constantly
Oh,
under
wow.
attack and gives it time to heal.
I didn't realize that's how the treatment works.
Right. So I mean, even for like type 1 diabetics, you could give that a try if you find a good physician that has a high grade supplement where they could give you some pancreas tissue and take that in the stomach, then the antibodies stop destroying the beta cells and all the insulin production, and it starts attacking that supplement in the stomach, and it allows that pancreas to heal.
That's amazing. We need to talk after this live.
Yeah,
Or another
not saying
day.
it's a for sure cure. Yeah, not saying it's a for sure cure, but it's something to look into for sure.
That's interesting. Wow.
Yeah,
I never heard of that.
yeah,
For us at Yummzy, when like we had customers coming to the cafe and so on, one main thing we saw, and it's not an autoimmune disease. Well, it's not an autoimmune disease, but we used to have a lot of customers that had cancer. And I remember being interviewed by this amazing customer one time, and by interviewed, she was just asking me questions, but it was about 2 hours of questions. In the end, I was asking her like, "Do you have a degree in nutrition? Because I've never been grilled on ingredients or macros
yeah,
as much as you have." And I asked her like,
yeah.
"Are you a nutritionist or what?" And she turned around and said, "No, she had cancer and."
Mm.
All the doctors were telling her she needs chemotherapy, she needs chemotherapy. And instead of going through that, she changed her diet radically. And
Wow,
she's not the only person to believe that she cured it. It was actually the doctors themselves that said it's actually gone. So,
wow,
yeah.
wow.
And she was very young. She was in her early 20s, which was really heartbreaking when she said she survived through all of this.
Yeah, yep.
So,
That's interesting. I've heard of I've had a couple patients, same exact story. And what
yeah.
I like to tell people as far as encouragement goes is there's a saying I say, and sometimes when you're struggling or suffering with health, you think you've been buried, when in reality you've only been planted. And this is
Yeah.
just a precursor for a very profound outcome. So, you know, a lot of it is perspective too. That may have caused that individual that you just described. She knows so much more about health. She's going to be healthier than she's ever been because she was forced to do more research and really evaluate her health. And
And know
sometimes that's
what's
what it takes for people.
Yeah. Yeah,
Exactly.
totally.
Exactly.
We'll move on to the next question. What is the most common nutritional disorder?
Yeah. This would be iron deficiency anemia. So
Really?
I can pull that apart a little bit for some people. So you've heard of anemia before. I'm sure everyone has. And basically what it means is that you don't have enough red blood cells. And what red blood cells do is they carry oxygen to different places in the body. So especially to the brain. So that's why people who are anemic, one of the common side effects that they have or symptoms that they have is they feel lightheaded, they feel fatigued. When they go from a sitting to standing position, they get really lightheaded and feel like falling over. And just not a lot of energy, very lethargic. So having enough oxygen and red blood cells being distributed to your body is really important. Yet not enough people are getting enough red blood cells. Why? Well, iron deficiency. What iron does is iron attaches to hemoglobin and it carries the oxygen like an Uber driver. So you need that iron to attach to the hemoglobin and the oxygen to carry the cells throughout your body. So are people not getting enough iron, or what's the catch here? Well, again, going back to gluten, if you're consuming a lot of gluten, you're not absorbing iron. You could be eating enough, but you're not absorbing it in your gut because gluten's taking over and you're absorbing gluten instead. For women, it could be their menstrual cycle. So they're losing a lot of blood, so that you need to be supplementing some iron or upping your dose of liver meats or something. It could be occult blood anemia, so a wound, or maybe you're taking a lot of NSAIDs. And remember, NSAIDs cause ulcers, so you start bleeding from the inside out. So you're losing blood cells that way. So it could be coming from a variety of different places, but iron deficiency anemia is the most common deficiency in the human race right now.
Wow, more than vitamin D, or that doesn't count as a nutritional disorder?
Vitamin B is up there. Pellagra and all. Oh, D? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. D is very common, especially here in Minnesota. Vitamin D is very deficient.
Can't say much different.
Yeah, true. This is true. But yeah, vitamin D is up there as well. And you want to make sure that you're getting enough vitamin D with K2 as well, so it's getting absorbed in the cell. And remember, vitamin D is fat soluble. So if you're taking vitamin D and you're not taking it with a fat source, it's not going to get absorbed quite as well.
Yeah, true.
Very good question.
Yeah, indeed. What foods can prevent diseases?
Yeah. Let me ask you first. What are your top foods that you think prevent disease? What have they been for you?
I think that's a very hard question because it depends on what we're talking about. I know, for example, as a kid, I used to take lemons and literally crunch through them. I like grapefruit, I like things like that.
Yes.
So I know as a kid, even though I am type 1 diabetic, and people would have said my immunity would have been much lower than other people. I know I was the only kid in school who didn't catch a cold when all the other kids had a cold.
Really?
So obviously the vitamin C did help there.
Yeah, absolutely.
What foods can prevent disease? I don't know. I'll say what I try to aim to get every day. So for me, I like to have a green smoothie whenever possible. It doesn't always happen every day, but it's like a handful of spinach, about an inch square of ginger, a teaspoon of chia seeds, a lemon squeezed in, or a lime, and either a slice of melon, not watermelon, just melon, or a quarter of a banana. Now, yes, banana is not keto, I know, but hey, being diabetic, I usually wake up with a hypo, so I kind of need that.
Yeah.
Now, I also add a teaspoon of coconut oil to that, and I always end up adding either blue spirulina or psyllium husk. Now, it's not a disease, but for me, psyllium husk is great as
Yep.
like cleaning my stomach, as a supplement, and so on.
Yep.
What foods? I don't know about food specifically, but I do know for a few years I've suffered badly from vitamin D deficiency, to the point like if I just banged my hand on the wall, I broke my bone.
Oh, really?
So obviously the calcium was affected. My vitamin D was really bad, and my vitamin K was bad. But here's the fun part: all doctors thought I needed to supplement my vitamin D and my calcium, and so they gave me vitamin D and calcium supplements. The problem was when I started getting problems with my fingers, and my fingers would not close; they would go crack, 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 crack. And they were saying I have calcium buildups here. And instead of trying to look at the root cause, as you said, they suggested steroid injections. Now, they were saying it's critical because I can't type, and my job was IT. I couldn't bake, and I had Yummzy going on, and I needed to bake. I couldn't use my at all. So it sounded like, hey, regardless of the diabetes, I got to take the steroids. I don't have a choice. I took the steroids. I gained weight because they were not 1 or 2 shots. They were constant shots for a few months. And after 1 year, it came back again. So at that point, I started to look back at what triggers calcium issues, what triggers vitamin D issues. Why am I taking about 7,000 units of vitamin D, and my vitamin D level was still 9 or 8, which is extremely low. It's extremely deficient. And that's when we spoke to a very good friend of a very good friend of ours who was a chiropractor and kind of gynecologist as well. And he was the one saying to me, no matter how much vitamin D you take, you need to take vitamin K2 with it.
Yes.
1 month I took this. My hands were moving perfectly fine again, as you can see now. My bones were much stronger. Okay, not 1 month for the bones, but I realized that over the years. I haven't touched wood, broken any bones in years now. And he was saying, take 7,000 units of vitamin D, but take the right ratio of vitamin K. Now, here's the thing. I took a long road to answer the question. What food can prevent disease? I personally don't have a food to prevent disease, but my one thing I will say is don't take a vitamin or a mineral or something without knowing what it works with. I took so much calcium and vitamin D, but it caused me calcium buildups in my joints, in my hands, and that kind of caused me a disease, if you want to call it that. And the moment I took the right vitamin for it, vitamin K2, no matter what I took before that, oils, vitamins, calcium, and minerals, it didn't work. It caused me problems. So my only advice would be take the things you take in a balanced way. Too much vitamin C and you're not putting any zinc in your body is not going to help you much with immunity. Too much iron and you're not taking the right things to work with the iron is not going to work either. So my only advice is look at the holistic picture. Don't think to fix it, I need to take calcium. And then you realize that actually the calcium is not going to do anything without the vitamin D, without the right oils, without the right minerals, without the right other vitamins that it works with.
Yep, you're exactly right. And let me explain this to your listeners out there too, because you brought up a really good point with with K2. No, I am so glad you brought that up because I preach that all the time to my patients. K2 is like the Uber driver that drives calcium into the blood and into the bone. If you just take a calcium supplement, which a lot of people think they should do, like when they're dealing with osteoporosis or something, it doesn't do anything because all it does is go swim around in your bloodstream. The vitamin K2 is the essential ingredient that takes it from the blood to the bone. So you have to have the K2, which is exactly why it worked for you.
Amazing. And also, if you're watching this, Andre is the gynecologist I mentioned. Thank you for that advice because it literally takes a lot that I was suffering with, and even doctors and specialists couldn't figure out other than Steroids.
Yep.
I gained like 6 kilograms in 2 weeks, in 2 months, sorry. And
Unbelievable.
I've never gained so much weight in my life, but
Yeah.
I didn't know what was happening. And if it wasn't for this person, I would still be continuing that way.
Wow.
So, yeah, totally good question. Now, the next question is, are there specific fruits that are good for infections?
Yeah. Depending on if it's bacterial or viral, that'll kind of depend. But for bacterial infections, especially garlic and onions and oregano oil is the number one recommendation I would have.
Sorry, which oil?
Oregano.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Right, yeah, you'll see that becoming pretty popular. You can do some research on PubMed, and it's antimicrobial effects, but it's probably the strongest natural antibiotic you could find. Oregano
Amazing.
oil.
Wow. What about the herb? Can you just use it from the herb, right?
Yeah, you could do that as well. Yep. The oil is going to be very concentrated, so it's pretty powerful stuff. But yeah, you could do the plant itself. You could do oil, but garlic and onion as well. Top 3 recommendations right there.
I have a confession. I love garlic so much.
Good. You probably never get sick.
My husband. So the deal was when we went on a date at the beginning to make sure he doesn't have any prejudice against my garlic.
Yes, good. That's true love.
I made sure he did the garlic first, and then as he was doing it, he was like, "I'm gonna smell of garlic now. How am I gonna kiss you?" And I said to him, "Don't worry, I'm gonna eat garlic."
Good.
So, ladies, the trick is make sure the guy eats the garlic before you. Then it's okay. This will happen.
There you go.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of garlic, I have to say.
Good. I am. You probably. When was the last time you got sick? I'm sure you are pretty
For
immune.
a diabetic person, for a person with diabetes, touch wood, I don't. I mean, when my diet is bad, I see it straight away. Even if someone in our office has a cold like 5 or 6 rows away from me, nobody will catch it other than me. But when I am eating healthy, all of this, that's not an issue.
Yep. My camera will be back on in like 1 minute here.
No worries. Next question is, are there any, I think we answered the similar question earlier, but this is more to the point. Are there any autoimmune diseases that can be reversed with nutrition?
Yeah, that's a good question. There absolutely can be. I've had a couple patients with Hashimoto's or thyroid disease that's been reversed through diet. It kind of depends on the particular condition that you're talking about here, but you really need to talk to your physician about what specific diet you should be on, what things you need to be removing from your diet, and the lifestyle changes that you need to make to reverse that disease. There we go. Back on. So so it really depends on the type of autoimmune condition that you have, for sure.
Awesome. And we're reaching the end of the questions, unless I receive something through the lives. What are the top vitamins or minerals to supplement?
Well, again, kind of depends on the individual and what your goals are. If you're an athlete, or if you're a long distance runner, or if you're a weightlifter, supplements and vitamins are all going to depend on your lifestyle and your activity throughout the day. But for a general rule of thumb, vitamin C, get your zinc, get your vitamin D, and magnesium. Magnesium is one of the most common deficiencies in the world right now. And so it helps
you get it
people
if you go to the beach, right?
Yes. Yep.
I gotta live in a beach now.
Yes, I think you do. Believe
concrete jungles. What are they supposed to do to get magnesium?
Oh man, they're gonna have to purchase some Celtic sea salt or pink Himalayan salt to get that magnesium in there.
So just ingest the salt or sleep in it in a bath or what?
Yeah, you could sleep in a bath or sit in a bath, Epsom salt bath or something like that.
Okay.
But I like the brand Jigsaw. They have the most well-studied magnesium that I have
Oh,
found.
wow.
So yeah, if you look up Jigsaw, they got a pretty good
How do you spell
brand.
that, please?
JIG and
JIG.
S. Yep,
Oh, like the jigsaw
SAW.
puzzle.
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Okay. I'll look them up. Awesome.
Yep. Yep.
And we actually got 2 questions.
Okay.
Are we done with this one?
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
Awesome. We got a question from a lady called Alina, and Alina is saying she has issues where she doesn't go for, well, she used another word, but she doesn't go for number 2 for 4 or 5 days in a row, and she can't make it happen. She drinks a lot of water, but she doesn't know why. Is that something diet related?
Most definitely. Yeah. She would have to definitely seek out like a natural path or a chiropractor or someone, seek some sort of doctor that will run some blood work on you and maybe do like a SIBO test, see if you have any small intestinal bacterial overgrowth going on. It could be a multitude of things that's going on, but what I tell people all the time is 90% of solving a problem is recognizing there is one, and she's recognizing that there is a problem. I can't tell you how many people they think it's normal to not go number 2 for like weeks on end. No, you need to be getting rid of that. Your body is a detoxing machine. You should be detoxing every single day, going to the bathroom every single day. So if you're not doing that, you need to tell your doctor immediately.
Any foods she should aim for or avoid, maybe?
What's that?
Any foods she should aim for or avoid, or it will all depend on her blood works?
It would depend on her blood work, for sure. There's not going to be a one fix all with the limited information I have.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the next question is from Caroline, is why does my body keep swelling when I drink a lot of water?
That could be due to carbohydrate intake. So when you consume carbs, your body gets really thirsty and it swells up with glycogen. And that could be, I'm not saying it is, disclaimer, I'm not diagnosing or treating anyone here, but it could be part of the reason. And that's actually exactly why bodybuilders, right before they go on stage, they eat something very high in sugar because it swells them up just a little bit to where they look fuller and bigger because of the glycogen stores. So you could just be doing that on a macro level where she's eating way too many carbs and noticing that she's drinking water and sugar and all of a sudden she just bloats up. That could be some other underlying conditions going on as well, but that's one thing to consider.
Right. And what about salt? Doesn't it bloat as well, especially for ladies?
Yes, depending on the type of salt that you are
Yeah.
on. Oh, my phone's at like 1% here. Hold on. There we go.
You didn't
There we
realize
go.
this was going to be more than an hour and a half.
Yeah. No, there we go. Perfect.
We are coming to the last question now, but
Okay.
please finish this one and then we'll move to the next one. So you were talking about salt.
Yeah, sorry about that. So it depends on the type of salt that you're consuming. If you're having pink Himalayan salt or Celtic sea salt, you're going to notice that you're not going to bloat as much. It has so many minerals in it that it kind of balances itself out. It's more of the table salt that's going to cause you to bloat than anything. So cut out those salty, starchy foods that are mainly coming from fast food. Cut that out. Add in the healthier salt to your avocados and eggs and stuff like that.
Or be like me, you can't taste salt, so there's no point in adding salt.
There you go. There you go. There's that too.
Whenever I cook anything savory, all my friends complain, "Oh my God, didn't you add any salt?" And I'm like, guys, I'd rather you add your own salt than me overdoing it and not finding out.
Yep. Yep.
Awesome. And last question. Can you share with us some nutrition tips that are evidence-based?
Yeah, well, that's a big question. Well,
I'm going to contribute to it as well.
Yeah, if you want to answer first, you go ahead.
Oh,
Otherwise, I
you're
can.
on the spot here.
I can start. I'll say by saying this. Remember, 70% of your immune system comes from your gut. So pretty much 70% of everything that we're eating becomes part of our immune system. So that is peer-reviewed research. You can look it up on PubMed. Remember, having too much sugar, when it brings your fasting blood glucose above 120, it weakens your white blood cell count by 40%. So
Mm-hmm.
cutting down on the white sugar is some of the best tips I can give people. Not natural sugars, not like from fruit or vegetables or anything like that, not even from sweet potatoes. It's the refined sugars. Cutting that out of the diet is huge for your immune system. Some other evidence, check out my Instagram page because I reference all my studies on my page. So I think you'll find some interesting posts on there.
That actually, I gotta admit, we love your Instagram page because you also bring things to our attention, like things we take for granted. Like we never use any gluten in our food, but you remind us of
Yep.
why we don't. We use
Yeah.
coconuts. You remind us of why we should. We use things that are not genetically modified or grown with pesticides or in areas like that, and you remind us of why we do that. So it's almost like reassurance we're doing the right thing, and it's
Yep.
just amazing for us motivationally. And also when you put something we don't understand, we're like, why did you say that? Can you explain? And you're so good at it.
I appreciate it. I try to. I'm glad someone appreciates it.
We just got another question related to what we were just saying, and someone is asking if they want to work with you directly, and they're based in the UK. Is that something you would do with them, or do they have to be based in Minnesota and be in your like medical hospital or whatever to be able to be
Right.
working with you?
As of right now, I'm not treating anyone via online. That's something that I am working on to do some functional medicine-based stuff
Sign me
online.
up.
So yeah, I'll have you all reach out to me and I'll let you know. You know, if that's something that you're interested in, direct message me on my Instagram account. I'll let you know when I have that up and running, and then I can give you some options when I get that going.
Amazing. I'm gonna go for some of my tips.
Yeah.
Are they evidence-based? They're based on my evidence and people that I've worked with. I don't know that scientifically. You have to research that. But feel free to add on things. Feel free to explain if it is evidence elsewhere, please.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mentioned earlier, always match your vitamins, minerals, omegas, and everything you take together. It's totally useless or even can cause problems if you take a supplement that is not balanced. So always make sure whatever you take is balanced, because the body will go out of its way to create that balance, and that can mean depleting you from other things or can mean triggering diseases or things like that. So always make sure everything is balanced. Especially ladies, certain times of the month, or gentlemen, if you suffer from these kind of like extreme food reactions. This is evident from every single lady I've spoken to who had issues certain times of the month, and when she followed these guidelines, they disappeared. They were shocked. If you have any problems with headaches at that time, watch the amount of sugar and carbohydrates you're putting in your diet. That causes headaches badly. I never used to have headaches. I realized whenever I had something with a little bit of sugar, I would have a mind-splitting headache when it's that time. So that's something to look out for. The other thing is bloating, which is why I asked about salt earlier. Eat a lot of salt a day or 2 or 3 days before that time of the month, and you're gonna bloat really bad. All the tummy bloats, all the ladies saying, I gained 2 sizes that time of the month. Yeah, that's a lot of the salt going on. So this tip, I wish I knew earlier than when I was 18, but I've helped over 30 friends of mine who used to have these issues, and it was bulletproof. They could not find any other way to treat those issues other than cutting out what was causing them. The last one is the stomach ache. And this is going to sound, maybe it's also the quality of the meat, but a lot of females even take days off from work because they don't feel well. Their stomach really hurts. And believe it or not, that's down to eating meat, red meat, the week before your period. And unfortunately, while it depends on the type of meat, on red meat, it can also happen from chicken due to them being injected with hormones. And it can
Right.
also happen from soya due to it being messed up, and then it messes up with your hormones. So if you don't want to have any pain, stomach ache, just avoid any red meat or injected chickens or anything that will mess up with these hormones, meat wise or soya wise.
That's really good advice.
You agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think people are missing that link all the time. They don't. I hear this all the time. It's expensive for organic. It's expensive for grass fed. But if you don't, purchase that extra dollar for those farmers that are working hard to, create the healthier, better quality sources of food, you're going to get these side effects that you just mentioned.
Definitely. And you know what's the problem? If we change that word and we don't say it's expensive, if we say I don't want to invest on my health, or if
Yeah.
it's too expensive for investing in my health, it's gonna sound very different to just saying that product is expensive. And let's face it, if we don't support these small businesses that do it right, we're not even gonna have the option of finding them later on, because
Yep.
if they don't survive, only the big players will survive. The ones who inject
Yep.
hormones, the ones who do everything in the wrong way. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Spot on.
Any other nutritional tips?
I think we covered a lot. I think I'm good. Very good questions, though. Impressed with the questions.
Good, yeah. And we love the answers you gave as well.
Good. Hopefully it helps
Thanks
some
for
people
that.
out. And
Yeah, we should also consider putting a whole episode just on cholesterol.
yes, that is one of my most passionate topics. So I'd be happy to discuss that at some
Awesome.
point.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for watching us, guys. Thank you so much for the brilliant questions you sent over. Thank you, doctor, for the great answers and great advice. Everybody, make sure you're following Dr. Reutemann on his Instagram. Make sure you follow us. If you can't find his Instagram, just message us and we'll give it to you. And thank you, guys.
Hey, thank you, everyone. Appreciate you for having me on.
Thank you. We appreciate you making the time.
Absolutely.